All right, welcome to the June 10th, 2025 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, folks. I assume folks have had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from the May 20th meeting. Do we have a motion to accept them?
Make a motion.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And next we have, I just want to remind folks, we discussed it last month, but I know many of you weren't here because we did not continue the discussion of 45 3rd Street. So last time we discussed this item, we had a lot of folks. It got a little bit rowdy. In particular, we had some physical contact, and I want to be absolutely clear that we will not allow physical contact of any kind, no matter how innocent, no matter how minor. If I see anyone touching anybody else, anyone pushing anyone else, you will be put out of this room immediately. No exceptions. So I just want to make that very clear. In addition, we really want to hear from everybody. It is important to hear from everybody. And I know we had some discussions about time and the length of comments, and I'm going to set a flat rule of 5 minutes per person. And if you're speaking for many people, now is a good chance to figure out amongst you how you want to divide that up. But I promise you, you can get a lot of points across in 5 minutes if you cut to the point. And so to make that easier, we have a gym clock, and there will be a timer. You will see how much time you have. You will see it as it goes down. And when it beeps, I am going to be pretty cut and dry that it's time to sit down. So I know that that can feel restrictive, and I apologize for that. Again, we really do value your comments, and because we value your comments, we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to be heard, and that we go through this in a timely manner so that we're not all here late into the night waiting to speak. You know, you guys all have a chance to speak in a reasonable time frame. So thank you so much in advance for your cooperation with all of this. All right, now moving on to 288 Stiles Street. I want to.
Chairperson, may?
Yes, sir.
For a moment.
Yes.
I just want to be sure that we know which 5 are voting.
Yes, so the 5 permanent members are going to be voting and everything today because we have a full slate, except for on 45 3rd Street. So 45 3rd Street, one of you folks will be voting. I believe, Mr. Ginsburg, you are the most senior member of the associate members, so you will be voting for that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. You're lucky because previous board chairs would keep that a secret until the last minute to make sure that you all paid attention.
If there's a pub quiz, I promise I'll pay attention.
All right, talking about 288 Stiles Street. It was a little bit abrupt last meeting. That was a case where some folks had come in good faith with an attempt to get a variance for use on their property. They were somebody who had previously run a dog kennel. That dog kennel, they closed for a period of time. And unfortunately, once you do that, you are no longer grandfathered in, and the zoning for that region does not allow for a kennel. And so they had been hoping to come to us for a variance. They had prepared all the paperwork, and then town council intervened to let us know that we cannot grant a variance for use in zoning. And so they have to withdraw that, and they can pursue other means to change the zoning for their house, for their property, but they can't go through the zoning board for that. And so with that in mind, they sent us a withdrawal note letter dated June 3rd, and have requested to withdraw the application without prejudice. And so I personally, I feel very comfortable doing that. I see they did nothing wrong. This is really on our end that we didn't catch this earlier, and we didn't make sure that they weren't going through all of this procedure unnecessarily. And so for that, I feel terribly sorry. And all I can say is I will do my best to make sure that we don't drag anyone along like that in this way in the future, and that we'll develop some safeguards to make sure that that doesn't happen. So with that in mind, and in reference to the letter dated June 3rd, do I have a motion to withdraw 288 Style Street without prejudice?
I'll make, good.
You have to say the whole thing?
You can just say so moved.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, and we're going to do a roll call vote for this. So Mr. Testa?
Aye.
Ms. Craig Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Killalay?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs?
Aye.
And I am an aye, so it is unanimous. All right, and then this is sort of like town meeting where we bring it back for consideration just to make clear what is that it has been withdrawn, because usually we have the applicant here when we do it. But Mr. Testa?
I make a motion to close public hearing.
So, you want a second?
Second.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And we are unanimous. All right, so that matter is closed, and we can move on now to continuing 45 3rd Street. Thank you for all bearing with us on that.
Who's gonna act as the clerk, 45 third?
That would be vice chair
I can
takes
clerk,
over that
but
one.
we don't have to read in the warrant again, the legal.
Yeah, we don't
No,
have to
but you
read
might
it.
have to.
At the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have that.
That's,
Yes, yeah.
that's vice chair for you. You could, you're not.
You don't have to
recusing
move.
yourself, right?
I am.
Yes,
Oh, you're
yes.
recusing? Ah,
Yes.
love that.
So that means you can't even sit here? Or
No,
does it
You
work?
recuse, you can't.
Yeah, you are now a member of the community.
Oh, okay.
All right, welcome back. We have some changes. Can you guide us through them? And state your names and addresses for the record.
Again, Brian Vaughn, Smolak and Vaughn, on behalf of the applicant, Ryan Grasso, who's with me tonight. I think we all remember this hearing, the first one. We think we did a pretty good job of listening, and that's really what we tried to do. We tried to listen to what the board had to say, and we tried to listen to the comments of the abutters. We submitted revised plans, which I'm sure you all have. And we really tried to consolidate the 3 units into a single structure at the corner that would have the appearance of a much larger single family as opposed to multiple units. We also sought to try to maintain as much green space as we could. I think it's important to mention that Ryan takes his reputation. He values it greatly. I mean, he needs to. He really does care about what the neighbors think, and I think you'll be pleased with the plans that we've submitted. We think that they are very different than the prior ones.
Any questions that folks want to open with?
I got a few, but I'll wait.
We're going to hold this in suspense. So, the previous design you folks had, I apologize for the slightly crass way of describing it, but struck me as sort of the equivalent of 3 single-family homes kind of stapled together, right? And then this one is much more of a unified complex. And one of the changes with that was that you had 3 driveways as part of it, and now there's 1 paved area. So explain a little bit of your thinking with that and how that
Yeah,
is designed.
I'd point out, actually, there is 2 paved areas.
Oh, okay.
We
Oh,
did-
good, right, on the other
We
side.
did add two spots that would service Unit 1, which was the existing property on Maple,
Okay.
and then the proposed driveway, the larger area to the left of the structure would be intended to service the 2 new units primarily.
I see. Okay, yes. Okay.
And how many parking spots exist in that?
So the required parking, I believe, would be 6 spaces, and we have well more than that, where there would
Gotcha.
be 2 to the right and the driveway to the left. I mean, you probably put 10
Yeah,
cars there.
minimum of 6.
Yeah, but we meet the minimum requirements of 6.
You plan on renting these, condoizing them, or
It's planning on condoizing them and selling them,
selling?
yes. Which I think would also play into the fact that, the last meeting, there was a number of things brought up, probably too long to list tonight, in keeping in mind for time. But there was, one property on the street that was brought up that was, now dilapidated, that may have been granted multiple units at one point, that's in need of a lot of work. So the fact that I will be selling these units, I'll for sure be taking a lot of pride in the craftsmanship and the quality of construction, on top of everything else, and curb appeal and so forth.
And to follow up on that too, it would be most likely owner occupied, because there'll be 3 higher end, single families essentially, which most people wouldn't buy as investment property for rentals. I mean, you can't control whether or not someone will rent in the future, but for the most part, we think that it will probably attract people that live in the unit, which will probably help for future upkeep.
And they're all greater than 2,000 square feet interior?
So the second floor unit, I believe, is 2,200 square feet. Then the first floor unit below that is 1,200 on the first floor, with an additional 1,200 in the basement, which was a big compromise from the original plan.
Right.
The existing structure is about 2,800 plus or minus square feet.
And so, what is that? Is that 4, 3, and 2 bedrooms? Is that the idea, or how many bedrooms is in each one? Oh,
It says it on this one.
It is on, I
There's two
believe,
four-bedrooms
each
and
one
one
is.
three-bedroom.
Oh, 2, 4, and 1. Okay.
Yeah.
That's on the proposed site plan in the top corner there. Yeah, it's like halfway through the map packet.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yep.
Yeah, it looks
Is
like,
that
I mean, so
yeah,
like
4,
the,
3, 4. Okay.
the unit 1, which is the existing structure, right? It stays around 2,800.
Yes.
Unit 2 total would be like
2396.
23. Unit 3. Did you just do this math? Is that what you're doing?
So
Okay.
unit 1 is 2944, unit 2 is 2396, and unit 3 is 2336. All of them are smaller than the original. The original had 3296 for unit 1. Unit 2 was 2420, so that one's a little. And then
Right.
unit 3 was 2569.
But all of them are still at least as big as an average single family in the sense that, like,
Well, I mean, there are single families that are 1,700 square feet, so.
sure, but 2,000 square feet is
Yep.
not unstandard for a single family.
For a modern house being built, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Mine is well under. But
It still meets all the setbacks, right? You're not looking for any relief on the
No,
setbacks, right?
no other relief.
And so if you are, so with condoizing it, then the property is shared as an HOA, is that the idea? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have any intent of making it owner occupied as part of the bylaws? I think it's, I don't know what one it is on 125, it's owner occupied condos.
Yeah, my concern with that would be whether it would impact financing with the restriction on it, but we did not have an intent of doing that.
Did you happen to go by Ferber Ave?
Yes, I did. And we tried to make it not look like that for you.
So here's one of my questions, and this might be different because this neighborhood is bigger colonials. One of the things that always irked me on that, which is why I said, don't put us into Ferber Ave, is the height. And one of the things I'm realizing with the new design, which I will say, I totally appreciate that you guys listened. I know that you had to sacrifice square footage. I understand what that does. So I appreciate that from my stance. The attic is now walk-up attic. What are we looking at, and I don't know if you guys would have this, what are we looking at in terms of height from, you know, ground to tip top of the roof compared to the other houses in the neighborhood?
I think that's in here.
In terms, no, but in
It
terms
is in there.
of.
The
with
existing is
other-
just over 35 feet, and the proposed is going to be a maximum of 35 feet or less.
Okay.
That's existing.
And
That's
how
not-
that relates to the other
I can't
properties
do-
in the neighborhood, I can't answer that. I haven't done that kind of research. But I can tell you the existing is just over 35 feet.
And
But
the,
the proposed, new construction will not be.
and the land around it is, if I recall, pretty flat, right?
It's
There
extremely
isn't,
flat.
there isn't a gradient around, because in some
No.
cases, we've had, a house where it's like a gradient, and then there's a whole debate over which is the 0 point and all of that, and I don't think we have that in this case.
Yeah, no, my concern is more, I don't want this.
Poking above
looking like-
everything.
Well, looking like it's towering like Ferber Ave towers
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
But I think because a lot of these are colonial, they're already kind of, or like,
Or Victorian.
Victorian, not colonial,
Yeah.
Victorian. They're already kind of high.
Yeah.
I mean, I just drove through the neighborhood, and I drive through it all the time because I work in town. But I mean, it's all of the houses are tall in the like immediate vicinity.
And also, one thing I appreciate is that the house isn't, that this design isn't all up on the street, right? I think there's a world in which you design this to have everything forward up on the street, and a lot of it is set back.
And I like the
And I think
different,
that helps.
I like the different roof styles as well to break it up to not look as monolithic. By having the gables and dormers and the, I don't know what you call the turret part,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
A couple of the butters have commented on it, saying it was almost a mirror image of another property that's directly next door. There was a butter on Dudley Street to the same effect of what you were just talking about. Really appreciated the architecture, and that he could tell we really took our time. And-
Did you talk to
and-
some of them?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Not all of them, but many of them, yes.
Awesome.
One question I had, because you gave a sort of landscape sketch plan, are you planning on doing any landscaping in like the far back, like along Dudley Street? It wasn't on the plan, but I don't
So,
know if that's just an idea.
Brian brought up the point, when we first started, we were trying to maintain as much green space as we possibly could. I think it's an excellent space for either children or like a patio for cookouts, or maybe swing set area, or whatever it may be. So I am open to doing any type of landscaping as far as like a green, fence, if you will, or boundary lines, which I've offered to some of the abutters on Dudley, and I said I'm open to that discussion.
Because I know it was
But no,
brought up
it's-
last time that like the view from Dudley would change, and that
Yeah.
might help, but I don't know if that's been part of your conversation already. But I didn't see it on the landscape plan, so that's why I
The
was
view
curious.
from Dudley Street?
Yeah,
Yes.
yep.
No, but
Right.
I think, though, one of the issues with the view from Dudley Street was that under the prior plan, there was a lot of structures that were in the way.
Or
And
coming
what he,
closer,
with this plan, it maintains green and
Right.
more of an open view, so I don't,
The
Ryan's
first plan did
open.
take up every inch, and I did speak to that owner of Dudley directly behind us with, I think he has 9 garage bays back there.
Yeah,
And he was just very, very appreciative, and he, in his words, he said it really put him at ease. He wasn't sure what the first approach, necessarily was, or what the intent was, but it really felt like this, put him at ease and solved a lot of the issues that he had originally, and we really kept the structure facing Third Street this time around, not turning the corner, allowing us to, again, keep that green space.
Yeah, well, and just to pull back, the comments from last time, one of the things that was said, it was a concern that, about the area becoming a concrete jungle of condos and apartments, right? And I do appreciate that, this is a great case study of what different kinds of designs can do, right? Where the previous one, I think, was designed to look more like single-family homes, and that has a certain appeal to it. But the flip side is that you lose a lot of that green space, and this condenses it. And I understand that it makes a bigger building, and someone might not like that. But on the other hand, you trade off, and you get a lot more open area.
We feel like it mimics as closely as we possibly can a single-family home, which was, again, a recommendation, of the board, and not knowing how many units are inside that building. I think we accomplished that
Yeah.
quite well with this plan.
Do you know how much, it's kind of hard to tell from the plans, but do you know how much further the addition would go as compared to like the pool deck that was there? Just so I can more easily picture it in place.
If you look at the plot plan, it actually shows the existing condition of the pool deck in a very light color.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
underneath.
yeah.
I wanted to say it's almost the same
Yeah,
size. I mean, when you walk the lot and you're actually on site, there is a lot of space there.
Right.
It's almost the same, almost, I don't know.
Yeah,
if it's almost
it
the same footprint.
extends a little bit beyond, you can see.
Yeah, it looks
Sure.
like it's like maybe like 10 or 15 feet.
Basically, it's
Yeah.
I forget what you called it, like the turret or whatever.
The
you
turret.
The turret,
Mostly,
yeah.
yeah.
It's the width of that.
Right, okay. Yeah, because you can still kind of see where the pool was with the little row of trees that at the end of the driveway there. And it's like, wouldn't take up much more space than that. It would just be adding it as a structure. In fact, it wouldn't even be getting as close to the neighboring property as the pool deck was.
In terms of like exterior finishes, what were you thinking? It looks like it's more of like a siding than like a shingle, or would you do like vinyl or something to match the neighborhood more?
So the construction I'm doing now, I'm using so much hardy board and PVC, which I really love as materials for longevity and quality and so forth. So I'd probably lean more towards that.
Okay.
I haven't concretely decided yet. I think it would be appropriate, for this build. But I would definitely redo the existing siding and the roof, and, it would appear like the entire thing is new construction.
Okay. And then with this many units too, I'd assume you'd have like some dumpsters or something like that, or would it just be trash barrels?
I don't think we would need that, it would just be.
Well, I'm sorry, like on a permanent basis?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant during,
Yeah.
No.
during construction.
Yeah, I don't think we would need that with just 3 units.
No.
Okay.
This looks really nice, Beth. You did a
Thank you.
really nice job with it.
Thanks.
Mr. Ginsburg, Ms. Rutherford, do you guys have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but having been here for the first part of the conversation, this is, to your point, a lovely case study of design. And it feels more like the town than the original design did, which I think was one of the largest points of pushback from the neighbors. So thank you.
Sure.
Because that's an effort and it's appreciated.
All right, anything else before we open up public comment? Do you guys have anything else before we open up public comment?
I would just like to say that Ryan really, cares and put a lot of thought into this. And in fact, we had, as you know, extended one time in between, and that was Ryan negotiating against himself, because we got a plan set back from the architect who wasn't here at the hearing, and Ryan's, sent him back to the drawing board once already to come up with this plan. I think it's important to point that out as well.
All right. With that, Do we have a motion? Well, I guess we don't need a move. At this point, I'm going to invite folks that want to come up. Please come up one at a time and state your name and your address for the record. And as mentioned before, Ms. Craig Coman is going to start the clock when you come up and start speaking. All right.
Didn't realize it beeps.
Time's done.
Five minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Okay, so I just want to make sure I have this right. It's, my Joanne Cavallaro, 12 Milton Street. We're 11 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms. I just want to ask if that's correct. I know I'm not supposed to act directly, but,
Yeah, you can't ask them directly, but you can ask
Okay.
us. And I believe that is, so it's 4, 4, and 3, so that's 11.
Okay.
And then we've got
2.5,
3, 3, and 3, 2.5, and 2.5.
okay.
Yeah.
So I guess one question that I would ask is, how many people is that, like in a range, right? Because there's 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. Did I get it right? 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms.
Thank you.
So that can be.
I said 11 bedrooms, that's where I started. Yeah, how many
That
people?
can be a person per bedroom, 2 for a couple,
So,
possibly 2 for 2 bedrooms if there's.
okay, so it could be 11 to 22 people?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look around at community averages, right? So you would typically get about 4 people 4 to 5 people in a 4-bedroom is roughly
Okay.
typical.
Okay, so somewhere around maybe
So
15
12 to
people.
15,
12
yeah.
to 15. So, no, I was trying to figure that out because I was looking at the number of people, we talked about density last time, and I was looking at the number of people on 3rd Street. And this is a large increase in the population on 3rd Street. It's somewhere around, I wish I had all the numbers with me, but it's about 30%. But having said that, the building itself is 7,700 square feet. And all but one of the properties on 3rd Street are under 3,000 square feet. And one of them is 5,000 square feet, which sits on that 1-acre lot. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because it's quite substantial, sitting in the middle of the neighborhood, and there's a lot of people as well. And I think that is a big change. That will be a big change in the neighborhood. So it just seems to me like it's a very large building, being 4 levels, being up to that many people, in the middle of this sort of 1 to 2 family residential area. So I wanted to bring that up. I did have a question about the parking. I think you answered it. I think you said there are 6 and maybe 10, but I wasn't quite sure.
It sounds like 6 on the larger, off of 3rd Street and up 2 off
Right.
of Maple. That's what it
So
sounded like.
on Maple, I saw the one on Maple. So my concern would be that, we have a lot of families who have adult children living with them because they can't find housing because it's not affordable. So we have a lot of cars, which then get parked on the streets. So I am concerned about cars being parked on the street, and I didn't know if there was a way that, I don't know, that could be monitored or something like that, because I know that it does happen. And 3rd
I
Street
think that
is,
would be a town thing.
Yeah,
Not
Town
its own
thing.
so I mean, the only,
Mhm.
right, the town would have to set rules about, for example, you could make that, the town could decide that those streets are not available for street-side parking, street-side parking. But I don't think that it could reasonably say that this property is not allowed to have its residents park on the street. I don't think that would be a
Especially,
reasonable way to do
they
it.
do have ample parking for like what's required to have for the number of units. So, yeah, above and beyond
Yeah.
that, there's not restrictions we can put on
okay.
that.
And at the last meeting, I heard somebody say, and I don't remember who it was, and I didn't go back and look at the video, that that the butters didn't really say much about what they were looking for. And I think that was probably true. We talked about all the things that we didn't like. And you're not going to love what I say, but that's okay. My feedback would be that I wish it wasn't 7,700 feet. I think that that's huge. For this little neighborhood, it looks like a large commercial apartment building sitting on the street. I wish that it wasn't like two single families. I wish it wasn't, I guess, another 35 feet of a house next to one that's already there. I think it's a lot. And it looks like at this point, the attic is being used as living space, so you can't make the attic shorter based on the design that I looked at. So, I mean, I would say like the rest of the street, do a two-family with the existing house, or do a smaller unit on the side in the 1,000 to 1,500 foot range, and don't put in a 35-foot high attic, which also won't block the solar panels from the guy behind you.
All
And
right.
that's it.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Joe Cavallaro. I reside at 12 Milton Street, North Andover. Going to jump back a little bit. The last time we were at this hearing, the tone was that this was going to be apartments to help the need for housing in the town of North Andover. Mr. Grasso didn't say it, but that was the town, and a lot of the people that spoke, some of the people that were for the project said this is great. It's adding residential units to the neighborhood. So that is not the intent. So today we're talking about converting a single family into 3 single units, not a multifamily. Okay, so we're tricking the board. With this lot cannot be, we can't put another single family on this lot. So we put a massive structure next to an existing single family, and we call it 3 single families. It's bizarre. And as far as owner occupied, there's nothing that says a condo can't be rented. There's nothing that says a condo can't be used on VRBO to sublet. There's nothing that says that these people are going to live in these units. And there's nothing that says that the condo itself is not going to have a trash collection. You're going to have 3 separate people putting out trash, maybe a dump truck, a waste management truck backing into the area and beeping at all hours. I'm sorry, he's just confused by the 3 single families now all of a sudden. But some of the bylaws, 195 4.3 residential 4 district, okay? The purpose use furthers the town's intent in providing a range of housing type, okay? So this 3 units, I didn't think there was a need for single families in the library district. If granted, this will be the first 4-story cluster of 3 single-family units in that area. It'll be the largest structure combining 11 bedrooms. The bylaws say that it needs to achieve compatibility with the established pattern. It does not. It will be a 4-story, again, it'll be the only 4-story, the only 3-family in this neighborhood. Section 195-10-7, all conditions shall be met for a special permit. A condition of the site is appropriate. The site is not appropriate. There'll need to be a variance granted for the setbacks on the back corner of this property. So we're waiving the bylaws, plus we're going to grant a variance. A condition is the use as developed shall not adversely affect the neighborhood. It does. We don't have condos in this neighborhood, okay? Not in the library district. Okay, it's increasing, this addition is increasing the existing footprint by 160%. The neighborhood across the street from him that they talked about being a mess, they were looking to convert a 2-family, to be specific, into a 3-family, and they were denied. And they weren't looking to increase the footprint by a single foot. They just wanted to change an existing 2-family to a 3-family. But we're going to allow a single family converted into 3 single families. A condition is it won't be a nuisance. It will be a nuisance. We have no idea who is going to rent or lease or sublet these apartments. We're granting Mr. Grasso control of this property, but Mr. Grasso is turning it over to 3 separate people that are not here tonight and they're not speaking. I really request this board look at what we're doing here, converting a single family in this neighborhood into 3 separate units outside of Mr. Grasso's control. So he can't speak for them. Thank you.
So one thing I want to throw in, because I don't appreciate this at all, if somebody sells a home in a neighborhood, we have zero control of who moves into any home at any property located within North Andover. The fact of whether or not this housing were to be rental housing, condoed, single family, and what kind of people would move in, I find very offensive. And I don't think that that is at all something that's going to be looked at here.
May I just, I'll clarify it. I agree with you. If Mr. Grasso bought that single family and rented it, I have no idea who would move into that
Right,
home.
but that's
It's outside of my
beside-
control. But we're looking to convert a single family into 3 units outside of Mr. Grasso's control. So,
But a house being sold in your neighborhood, whether it's sold to Mr. Grasso or it's sold to Joe Schmo coming from Salem, New Hampshire, there is zero control. And the implication of, we don't know who these people are going to be, we don't know who's coming into our neighborhood, I don't like the impression that that gives me, because I think at the end of the day, we are adding, he's looking to add housing, whether it's rental housing, condoed, whatever. It is adding housing. I don't think there's much of a distinction between a rental unit and a condo. At the end of the day, a family of 4 can move into a rental unit and a family of 4 can move into a condo.
So I was actually going to ask that question, which is, what is, you made very clear that you draw a distinction between an apartment and a condo, and I'd love to understand a little bit more about what you mean about that distinction.
if Mr. Grasso was converting this into 3 apartment units, he would be responsible. I would be able to ask him questions about trash control. I'd be able to ask him multiple questions. What's the intent of why 2,000 square foot additions and putting 4 bedrooms in? Why not a 1,500 square foot addition for a 2-bedroom apartment? So, but we're condoing it.
If he were making an apartment, he could sell that complex to anybody. You would have no control over who that owner of that complex is, and you'd have to deal with them then. In this case, it's a condo set with an HOA, which presumably is managed by the people who own and live there. And so I don't understand what the difference is.
Okay, well, we're not talking about who's going to potentially buy that or who the potential renters are. What we're talking about is granting a special permit and a variance. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about waiving some of the bylaws to grant special permit. I might be using the word.
But that's what the zoning board is.
I
The zoning
agree.
board is.
I agree.
Also,
But-
special permit is not waiving the bylaws.
No.
It's built into the bylaws in order to allow consideration over things like this as they come up by the
190
town. And there is no variance attached to this, just to be clear.
The back setback meets the requirements?
It does.
It does.
Okay, then I mislooked.
Yeah.
I looked
And
at
to
it.
clear up a trash issue, there's going to be 3 recycling bins out there, and there can be, up to my understanding, I think at least 2, because I think you can buy a second one for your home. And we can put out unlimited amounts of trash. So they're not having a dumpster on the property. They're going to wheel trash barrels out like every single other person does. They're going to wheel their recycling out every other week like every other person does.
Right now,
So that, there's no backing up of beeping of a trash truck coming in to take out a big, huge dumpster and dump it. Their trash is going to function exactly the same way as yours.
right now, we're talking about putting out trash for 1 single family. We're talking about doing a special permit to allow 3 units to put out trash. And the HOA can put in a compactor. The HOA can put in a dumpster. The HOA, there's no need to be talking about what the HOA can do.
Except for, let's just think about this for a minute logically. An HOA isn't going to increase their bill by putting a dumpster, okay? That's
not
increasing
paid
their
for by the
HOA when they can put their trash out for free. And I can tell you right now, drive around the neighborhood sometimes. Single-family homes sometimes put out enough trash for 3 families, because I can tell you right now, I've done it sometimes.
Whenever there's a
think-
birthday party, right?
So I mean,
Christmas.
So
also work with
my condo association, because of control, because of people, rentals and owners putting trash on their deck and forgetting to put it out and squirrels getting into it, my condo association, not North Andover, voted to put in a compactor.
Okay, but how, you have to understand,
big
we're
is
talking 3 units, and I'm sorry, I cannot understand why somebody would sit there and say, yes, I am willing to pay $200 extra a month, every month, to have a trash company come in, when for free I can put it out on my curb. I mean, this is logic.
The original,
What's the units?
An earlier comment said, these are beautiful, high-end apartments. High-end people sometimes like ease. And if there's a dumpster, they might be benefited by that. We have no idea what they're gonna do. We're guessing at what they might do. But,
All right, Ms. Jacobs, with your permission, I'd like to keep moving on
Yeah,
so we can.
okay,
Get
thank
more
you.
All right,
people
thank you,
involved.
sir.
You don't have to time me. Karen Dargan Mulcahy, 57 3rd Street. I live exactly bordering 45 3rd. I am exactly right next door. Mr. Grasso never contacted me to ask me what my thoughts were. He was on Dudley Street, asking them what they thought about the property in front of them. Well, what about me? How come I got left out?
Please don't address Mr. Grasso.
Can I-
Please
can I
address us.
respond, or-
No, no, well, you'll have a chance after all of this.
I would like to
Thank
know
you,
why
sir.
I wasn't included in any of the decisions. From what I can see from the drawing, my house next door is gonna be looking out over a parking lot. It may be a roof, a side of that big, huge column that's gonna be on the end of it.
So if I might ask you, because the previous design, right, had 3 sort of separate buildings that were attached to
Multi-units.
each other, right?
Yes.
And so that would have brought a building much closer to your property.
Okay.
So if confronted with that option between those 2, right, which would you have preferred? Would you have preferred the
Well, I
previous
was never
design?
asked. I mean,
I'm asking you now.
right. I mean, I don't want a structure next to my property either. I'm used to, for the past 60 years, there's been a large grassy lawn area that belonged to what we call a yard.
So I understand that, and, but it is someone else's property, and they are allowed to build on it, right? If this was
Right.
not a multi-unit, they could have built all the way out to there
But if it
anyways.
wasn't a multi-unit being 3 units, 3 houses that you're selling, it would be less parking that would go near my property.
But they could have put a structure right up on the edge, right? Right up until the setbacks allow it.
And they wouldn't have had come to us at all.
Right, and they wouldn't have come to us at all. And so my question is, given those 2 choices, I understand that you don't like either one, but given those 2 choices, which one would you rather be dealing with?
Well, my question was, why didn't he reach out to
And
me
he'll
and
have a
ask me?
chance to reply, but I'm asking you a very specific question.
I would prefer not having the units close to my house, so I'm looking in someone's window and they're looking in mine.
But if they have if they have the setback, then there's nothing you can do. There's nothing anybody can do. So
Right.
what the chair is asking is, if you have the option of A or B, that's it. What do you
No, I
picking,
didn't
or
want
B?
A, B at all. That was not in
I
character
understand
of
you
the
don't want
neighborhood.
either, but what I am trying to understand, right, I'm in
Right.
the position of wanting to help the community
Mm-hmm.
minimize impact as much as possible within reason. And we have 2 starkly different designs with 2 very different design philosophies, right? And I think it was the input from Ms. Jacobs the last time we spoke, that this design, which opens up more green space and backs away more from neighboring properties, would be better. Now, the trade-off is that it's a larger building, right? It's a
Yes.
the
And
building
it's
itself
gonna
is
look a lot
larger.
higher too,
And-
as well.
And so, right, and so
Because it's connected.
there's a trade-off between those 2 designs. And my question for you is that if you're experiencing both of those, what is your feeling of which one you would rather be next to?
The newer model.
Okay, thank you.
And I also have a concern about Milton Street cutting right into Third that's gonna go right through that structure. That's a problem, because traffic comes down there, and the existing site right now has a driveway, so it's open. So when the cars come down Milton Street, there's a problem there. It's gonna be housing right directly, and that house is not far from the street, if
So,
you're gonna connect to
Are
the
you worried about,
existing.
just to be clear, are you worried about cars
Accidents.
overshooting the
Yeah.
intersection?
Absolutely.
Has that happened at this intersection before?
The cars come around that corner pretty quickly.
They had a problem on Milton when our children were growing up. There's a sign at the end saying, please slow down. It was always an issue. So now that this new structure is gonna be one complete unit, that means that that house is gonna be right there when they come down Milton Street.
Right.
I think that's a problem. Because if it was the existing dwelling and then you add a second unit to it, it's still gonna leave enough space there for the traffic to come down and turn. It's always an issue when people are flying down Third Street and they're trying to get down Milton. So that's my concern there, but I do feel slighted that Ed was included in the planning and asked about his feelings about what was gonna happen with the structure. And I am directly right next door to this structure, and I was never contacted.
All right, well, we'll give Mr. Grasso a chance to reply to
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Thank you. Don't worry, it'll be after the whole thing, but
Sure.
I'm putting a pin in it, we'll come back to it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. All right, anyone else who would like to come forward and speak? Yes, yes, sir.
Hi, John Lyons, 65 Third Street. Brian came to my house. We had a wonderful talk, great discussion. I showed him around my place. I thanked him, first of all, for cleaning up the rubbish. I remember one of my criticisms the last time was there was all types of crud all over the place. He cleaned it up the next day. 2, I got to know him. You know, when I first met him, I came here, I thought he was another entrepreneur. Okay, just out to make a buck. He should have made the presentation the first time. No, I'm serious, okay?
We had a lovely time together.
No, you get to see the person himself, okay? And I knew he would be nervous. I like that. I like to see that. I know the person that, okay, is human, and he does have some dignity, and that he has some feelings like the rest of us. I'm impressed with what he did. That's 180 degrees different from what I saw. Man, that other place looked like a motel. This one starts to look between a colonial and a Victorian. I like the turret. Okay, I like the turret. My only hang-up, okay, is again, three separate units. I mean, it's hard because it's always been two-family. Okay, it's been two-family. And it's become sacrosanct. Okay, it's become almost like almost a rote feeling that you want to be against that. And what you're really arguing, what you're really fighting against, this is the two-family on Third Street. You're fighting the whole onslaught of what's happening to the town. That's me. Okay, now, you know, I was pretty adamant the last time. I got the fight. I didn't hit him, though. Yeah.
Thank you for not doing that again, by the way.
So my biggest reservation again is I'm trying to fight this idea of we could possibly start having a lot of 3 families on that street. But I think I recall that this is just a request for a variance, right? It's not a request to change the zone.
So it's not even a request for a variance, it is for a special permit.
Okay.
Which is built into the existing zoning. There's no zoning overlay or change to the zone. That would have to go to the town
Okay.
meeting.
And that would have to be a town meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the zoning, just to make clear,
Yeah.
because it's confusing.
Yeah.
Needlessly
So
esoteric.
right, so the zoning allows for single-family by right, and then allows up to 3-family by special permit. And what that means is that the town's laws are saying, we think that this should be allowed if it's brought to this board and we decide that it is a reasonable use of the property. So it's not like a variance where we have to decide that special circumstances allow it. This is more do we think it is reasonable?
Right.
And it gives us the control over the project so that they can't just put in whatever they want. We can have these types of hearings and shape it a little bit more for the neighborhood.
Right. And I feel for Karen. She's been a neighbor for a long time. She's seen people come and go from that home. She's seen other people who tried to build things, and they were all turned down. But having talked with my friend here, I trust him. I trust him. Okay, and I don't often say that. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I might have said something carnal. And, but anyways, I hope that we can maybe even accommodate Karen a little bit more somehow, if it's at all possible. I was on school building committee for 13 years. We put the middle school up. We had all types of opposition from the people that live next to it. And so we heard them, and we asked our architect if he could move the property in something like 10 feet. Okay, this is if you're looking at the front of the middle school, the house is right on the right, and we moved it 10 feet. Everybody was happy. So I'm just saying, if there's any way, we could give Karen a little more space, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for being open to make a new friend, by the way. I said thank you for being open to make a new friend. Sometimes first impressions aren't everything.
No, they aren't, that's right.
And adults are horrible making new friends in the best of circumstances.
And Attorney Vaughn, I'm sorry that, Mr. Grasso should have handled the presentation.
All right, thank you.
Hello again. I was also here last time.
Name and address
Oh,
just for the
right.
record.
Eric Swirsky. I live at 90 Herrick Road.
Thank you.
So I think that, from what I could see off in the corner, my glasses do still work. I think the new building design does look very nice. I think, again, it's a block from Main Street. There's a lot of businesses there that would certainly appreciate the foot traffic. I think that, if there's concerns about traffic, I don't know if there's much that couldn't be resolved with an appropriately placed stop sign. There's just some three-way intersections there, so maybe that could help. But yeah, I think it looks good.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Very, very quick. We'll do 1 minute, okay?
Ooh, I almost put it in an
Street.
hour.
Joanne Cavallaro, 12 Milton Street. I also wanted to say that I did like this design better. I thought that from a design perspective, it looked better.
All right.
But along my wish list, if you look at all the houses, they're white with dark shutters, And, if it's like a blue house or a greenhouse, a large house is going to look even worse. So I just wanted to throw that thought out there in the universe. And I do think 7,700 square feet is still too big. I think the attic on the addition should come down so it could look smaller, which means you lose one level of the 4. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Mr. Grasso,
One more thing, I have one more thing.
real quick,
Yeah,
please.
I had a question about a house on Mifflin Drive. I'm sure you've seen it, and you go on Middlesex, and you take the right.
Mhm.
If you go a little bit, you see this big, huge brown house, and all the houses on the left are all single ranches. Has anyone ever seen that house? I want you to look at it. It's big and it's brown. A family lives in there. They love it. They enjoy it. There's a play area and a swing set and everything. I mean, it's nice looking. But who the heck allowed that in that neighborhood? It looks out of place. I want you to look at it. You can't miss it. It's brown, and it's like the second or third house in on the left on Mifflin Drive. Take a look. I don't want to see that happen.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Grasso, I want to give you a chance to respond, because you had some
So
thoughts.
just to respond to Ms. Mulcahy, I did attempt to call her on 3 different occasions last week, and on one of those occasions, we got disconnected somehow. I believe she hung up on me. So I decided to text her, and I have the text right here. It says, "Hi, Karen. Ryan Grasso here. Hope you're doing well. I just tried calling you, but it seems like we got disconnected." It was a little sarcasm, but so I couldn't leave a message. I wanted to touch base and ask if you wanted to view the newly submitted plan for next door. We dramatically altered the design from the original plan and wanted to give you an opportunity to view it if you would like. Let me know whenever you have a moment. Thank you very much.
There was never any
And I never
reply.
got a response.
Is it
And I've talked to
possibly-
Ms. Mulcahy on the phone before. I have her correct phone number, so I did reach out, for the record. She didn't want to talk. She hung up on me and then never responded to my text message. So I have a feeling that she's very angry. I didn't feel like I could keep everyone happy throughout this process, but I did make an effort.
All right, thank you.
I would just also like to add that, one of the other neighbors that Ryan did speak to, it's always a two-way street communication. And after our last hearing, as contentious as it was and everyone left, he had the courtesy to approach Ryan and open the communication with Ryan. And Ryan, responded. And so, when nobody else sat around and talked to Ryan after the meeting about what the design was, Ryan was left with what we had after the last meeting. He did the best that he could to redesign it, and he reached out as much as he could. I think one thing we all know is you can never please everybody, and Ryan tried to do the best that he can here.
I do have one question, just to clarify. The 4 floors includes a finished basement, so the only above-ground floors, it looks
3
like a
floors.
3-story building.
Correct.
Which is what currently exists there, just to
Yes.
be clear, okay.
Is there, are there any other questions, clarifications that folks would like?
Is there a color that you plan for the?
So originally, and this was,
Don't feel.
and that's fine, you can do that. It was of the direction of the architect. He thought that a gray house with white trim would really pop and be a little bit more modern and contemporary, if you will, or he just thought it would present better. My original thought, starting with Conti Funeral Home coming down, there's certainly a black and white vibe coming down the street, and that was my original thought. So again, I'm open to speaking to the abutters and the neighbors, and I'm totally open to any of those suggestions, and would be totally willing to carry out any of those plans that are suggested. But my original thought was black and white.
Don't feel.
Very
obligated.
traditional.
You're not stuck to any color through zoning board.
But I also
Okay.
like that you're into the vibes. It's great.
Yeah, well, and I do appreciate the effort you've made to try to match the aesthetic, right? Either in color or in design. I do appreciate that this is a larger building than a lot of the other buildings around, but at least you have tried to keep the form in line. Anything else?
And I would say PVC and hardy plank over vinyl would be a nice touch.
100%.
And still maintenance-free, right? Or close as maintenance-free as you're gonna get.
Yes.
Which, especially if it's condos, you want low maintenance, but still looking nice.
HOA fees, they can kill you.
They do.
Well, and also, I think the last thing that anybody in the neighborhood would want is for this to be a larger building than the ones around them and falling apart. Right. I think nobody wants
Yeah,
that.
and I will say, even so I've worked with a number of HOAs from very large HOAs to duplexes, like a lot of the other multifamilies around here, and 2 or 3 bedroom or 2 or 3 unit HOAs are almost always we'll figure it out as we go. They don't usually have as many written bylaws that dictate certain things. So when they need new siding or they need new housing or roofing and things like that, they might not even have a cash reserve to do that right away. So anything to make it last longer, put off needed repairs, I think it's a great idea.
For sure.
All right. Anything else before I?
One question. How long is it gonna take to
you can
construct
get-
this?
All right, you can come back up to the podium.
How long is it going to take to construct this?
All right, well, I'll ask Mr. Grasso. So how long do you expect?
So many new construction projects, we like to say that they take about 6 months, but more realistically, probably 7 or 8 months.
Okay.
Look, I had a whole bunch of notes here written down. I'll try to give you the short version. There was so much of discussion the last time we were here, really focusing upon topics like Conti Funeral Home, St. Michael's School, properties of historic nature. I just felt like, a lot of the things weren't, really directly related to me. But some of the things, that I took away from last meeting was something that Mr. Lyons had said, which was, the town's changing in North Andover. It's not what it used to be, right? There's certainly traffic around town. He made a comment like, geez, we don't have to develop every square inch. And you know what? I couldn't agree with him more. I've been a resident of North Andover for 35 years now. There's many stories I can tell you when I was a kid. I mean, we used to go to the Merrimack hockey games with a paper ticket, park in the parking lot and walk in. You can't get near the place anymore. There's traffic up and down Sutton Street, and it's not just a little bit of traffic between 3 and 4 o'clock. It goes all the way from the train tracks all the way to China Blossom. I mean, the fact of the matter is, North Andover is developing. It is changing. There are 900 apartment buildings and high-rises that are being developed. There's an Amazon in town. I mean, it's certainly not, what I grew up with either. That's, I think, why the zoning board is in place. We're applying for something in an R4 zone. I just felt like last time, I felt like I applied for something in a single-family zone, and I had no business doing so, and was literally, attacked. I can't stress enough, how much I care about bringing quality to this neighborhood and to the community as a whole. I have developed a lot in North Andover. I've done projects in Boxford, currently in Winchester, and I would like to bring that quality of construction, here to this project. I feel like what we're presenting, yes, it's an R4 zone. It supports multifamily units, certainly not by right, but by this approval of the board. I feel like it checks all of the boxes when it comes to, appropriateness, the ample amount of parking, the total number of units, where it's not obnoxious, and then most of all, maintaining the overall character of the neighborhood. So I hope the board feels the same way, and thank you for considering the project.
So with that in mind, I think we have exhausted all of our questions. So if you both are supportive of it, we can close the public comment and begin deliberations. Does that sound like the what direction you folks want to go?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to close public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second. Sorry, Matt.
We'll let
Well, Matt.
have this
No
one.
chance.
Yeah, true.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. So let's begin deliberations.
I mean, listen, I'm the first one to hate change. But I will take this
Over the first
over
one.
something like Sutton Street, like a big, huge apartment. Well, obviously over the first one, but over a big, huge apartment complex. And I think one of the biggest things we always talk about with North Andover is housing, 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 housing.
Right.
And change is hard. Change is hard. I get it. But I don't think this is, I think he tried really hard, regardless of what color he paints it.
I think-
One of the things, sorry.
No, go for it.
One of the things a point somebody made with reference to the internally lit sign on Market Basket issue that was before us was, the idea of incentivizing renovation, incentivizing redevelopment, incentivizing quality construction, and I think that applies here. I recognize that to some of the folks in the neighborhood, it's a bit of a change. It's a larger structure, but particularly with the changes made, I think what the neighborhood's getting is really attractive. I think it's clearly there's clearly a commitment to the sort of predominating design elements in the neighborhood, and yes, it's more people, yes, it's more cars and more parking, but it fits. It fits as far as the requirements go, and it's and to me, I did look at the I did look down the street and, you know, I think it's done in, you know, with the best of intentions, and it looks to me like it'll be an improvement to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think I probably have a slightly different view of change in the sense that North Andover has always been changing. You know, I mean, it has been changing for 400 years. And it will always be changing because people want to live here, because it's an amazing place to live. I didn't grow up in North Andover, but I did grow up in Andover, which used to be all the same town, if you want to get into the history of it. And I've seen a lot of changes as well over my entire time living in this area. And there is another kind of change, which is refusing to allow any development or new things, which usually results in crumbling infrastructure, you know, slowly entropy into nothing. I've seen it in this area, I've seen it in the region, but not in this town, not in the towns immediately around it, because it's still a wonderful place to live and people still want to come here. And if we allow them to, in a way without, you know, making everything a Ferber Ave, which I don't think we've done. I don't think I've done here. But if we allow them to, with this special permit process of figuring out a design that works for everyone, or is tolerable, then that's how we continue that growth and don't step on what this place is. So I'm definitely for it.
Mr. Hatchie?
I mean, I certainly appreciate the design change from the beginning. I think this definitely fits the neighborhood better. It kind of works with the rest of the neighborhood, and yeah, just kind of speaking of the change thing too, change is tough, as you mentioned, but there's a reason why the state needs so much housing right now, and if we kept this up with denying every multifamily like this, it would just need more. And like you said, we want to bring people here, and I think this is getting there. It's building quality units that fit within the neighborhood, and I appreciate you reaching out to all the abutters and the willingness to work with them. That shows a lot. And yeah, I meant to speak to this before, but the whole trash thing too. I live in a condo, 13 units. We have one dumpster, and I think I could argue that the trash gets taken out less. I think they come every 2 weeks, one dump truck, and that's it. So that's all I got. I think this is a welcome change to what we previously saw, and I'm for it.
Ms. Rutherford?
I think that that this will prove that fear is just an acronym of false expectations appearing real, and that the efforts made in the sincerity expressed will help to continue the growth and transition of this town. I made a conscientious choice to move to North Andover, and then stumbled in backwards to the fact that my family was from here. Don't ask, didn't know. Weird but cool. You know, this town has a lot going for it, and a lot of that passion that it has going for it was presented over these 2 nights. But we need to keep moving forward. We need to embrace change that works for us, not against us. And housing is a vital must for growth and development. And I think this is an excellent way to evolve, even if it is a change of a 2 multifamily to a 3. And I just want to say that my 10-year-old will be arguing for me to buy her a princess room. That's what we call turrets in my house. So, you know.
So you might be buying one of these units.
I really like my library district home. I like my 1945 built-ins, thanks very much. But my 10-year-old will look at it and go, Mom, that's a princess house, and I want to live there. So, you know, I think there's a lot of wins, and I think the best part of tonight's conversation, quite honestly, was that people made some new friendships and they learned some things they weren't expecting, and they were incredibly brave enough to admit it, and I'm going to take that home with me. So thank you.
All right, I'm going to just take a minute to step on my soapbox because I'm chair and I get to do that. So I'm going to get a little personal too. So my sister moved to town recently, and she moved from the West Coast, did not know North Andover, and asked me where she should live. And the first place on my list was the library district. And I want to be clear that it is a wonderful place to live, and it is a place with an incredible community feel around it, where neighbors talk to each other, they hang out all the time. That is not a guaranteed thing in every neighborhood, and I think you should all be extremely proud of that. And unfortunately, she didn't buy a house there because there wasn't one available. And there aren't so many available, and that is an understandable thing with a neighborhood that people want to live in. But I did not grow up in North Andover, and I will say I really love how many multi-generational families live in North Andover, how many people have had their families living here 100 years or more in many cases, and I think it's fantastic. I did not grow up in North Andover. I grew up in Needham, about an hour south of here. And Needham, I don't know, most of you probably don't know, but between 1970 and 2010, shrank. And because it shrank over that time by a few thousand people, it went from being a middle-class town to being an upper-class town to now being a town that only dentists and CEOs can live in. And the buildings look exactly the same. Nothing has changed since I was a kid. I can walk around that neighborhood and every building looks just like it did. The people are different. And we have a choice in this community about whether we keep the buildings the same or we keep the people the same. And if you're gonna make me choose, I'm gonna pick the people every time. Thankfully, we're lucky enough in this case that we get to kind of have it both ways. I understand that this is a bigger building than a lot of folks would like, but the owner has gone through an enormous amount of effort to make the building fit in with the aesthetic. He has opened up as much green space as possible while sacrificing some of his own value in that building. And I think we are very lucky to have an opportunity to add some of that missing middle housing. I'm not as against a large apartment complex as some other folks are. I think that those are a necessary part of the puzzle, but they are not the whole puzzle, and they cannot be the whole puzzle. And I think that this is an important piece of it. And it's not going to solve the housing crisis on its own, right? These are not going to be units that somehow make it cheap and affordable to live in North Andover. They're going to be very expensive, but they are going to contribute and make things just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit better than they would have otherwise been. And that's all we can do. We can build it little bit by little bit. And I think Mr. Grasso should be applauded for being responsive in his design, for reaching out to the community, and I think honestly the community should be lauded for listening to him. I was really impressed to hear that folks engaged openly and honestly, and I know not everyone's going to be happy. My wife has a sheet of paper that says you can't make everybody happy. You're not pizza, and this is not pizza, but it is. I think it is the best that we can do while still doing what needs to happen. So, all right, with that, I will get off my soapbox, and we can move to a motion.
Jeez. Is this the part where I read a lot?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I was not prepared. I'm sorry, I was listening to your speech. Okay, so actually I need this because I need to reference these, huh? Do I read every page number,
You
or
do
can I
not need to. You can read the package of papers by LYF Architects, and you can say G000 to EX201. Or no, not to 201. We go even further than that to
G0
to L901 and also the plan the plan of land.
Huh? So, packet.
The date on the plan.
Yes.
Thank you, Frank.
Revision May 27th, 2025.
Just checking to make sure I have all the dates. Okay. All right. I make a motion to approve the request for a special permit? Is that where we started?
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the request for a special permit pursuant to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-4.3.3, the conversion of existing.
You need to have the address, actually.
Oh, darn. All right. Approve the motion.
Approve the special permit
A
of,
special permit of Prime Builders LLC, Ryan Grasso, for property at 45 3rd Street, map 20, parcel 3, North Andover, Massachusetts, 01845, in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-4.3.3, the conversion of an existing dwelling to accommodate not more than 5 residential units by special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals in accordance with section 195-10.7 of this bylaw and subsection N4 of this section. Specifically, applicant is requesting to build an addition for 2 housing units and conversion of an existing single-family dwelling for a total of 3 residential units. And this is referencing architectural design drawings by LYF Architects, dated January 28th, 2025, and mini revised on May 27th, 2025, G000 through packet to L001 or L901.
yeah, L90,
Also, the site plan dated
May 29th.
May 29th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right.
There you
Mr. Ginsburg,
Aye.
Ms. Jacobs,
Aye.
Ms. Craig Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Testa,
Aye.
and I am an aye. Congratulations, you have it. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone. Okay.
Mr. Clerk, you can come back.
Resume
or
your
sec-
seat. Oh.
I think he left you for the night.
I gotta read.
He's
more.
Laura,
abandoning
you're up.
us in our time of
Come on.
need.
You're up.
Killing me, Smalls.
Oh, to be vice chair.
Honestly, it seems like a pretty good gig now.
Can you see how much I miss all of it?
Raw power.
Yes, yeah. I
I don't
wield.
know, there's something to be
wield the
said for
time.
being Cardinal Richelieu and pulling the strings from behind the throne.
Well,
The only thing I wish we did more is bang the gavel. I should have done more. I didn't bang it enough.
You can always come back and bang.
Oh, you ready to read?
All right, go for it.
Notice is hereby given that the North Andover Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the North Andover Town Hall at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, at 7:30 PM to all parties interested in the petition of Richard Blaine for property at 123 Brentwood Circle, map 64, parcel 36, North Andover, Massachusetts, 01845, in the R1 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, Section 195-4.2, Part Q, Table 2, dimensional requirements, for a family suite in the R1 zoning district for the purpose of constructing a separate dwelling located with a single-family dwelling subordinate in size to the principal unit and separated from it in a manner which maintains the appearance of the building as a single-family dwelling. Specifically, applicant has requested a special permit to construct a family suite attached to an existing home to be inhabited by a family member consisting of 1,145 square feet family suite. Application and supporting materials are available for review at the office of the zoning department located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Massachusetts, on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., and Friday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. By order of the Board of Appeals, Michael T. List, Chair.
All right, come on up. I want to thank you both for your patience.
Of course, no problem.
If you can state your name and your address for the record, that would be helpful.
I'm Richard Blaine, 123 Brentwood Circle, North Andover.
I'm Christine Connolly, currently of Haverhill, but soon of 123 Brentwood Circle in North Andover. and previously of 123 Brentwood Circle in North Andover.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, tell
so-
us a little bit about this.
Sure. So this is a project that we're looking to do so that my husband and I and our 2 children can inhabit the main home and add on a family suite for my father to be able to live there with us. We lost my mom last year, and we're just really looking for a way for all of us to be together and back in the home that I grew up in, and yeah, just to be able to give our entire family a chance to kind of continue to grow in the town. To what level of detail would you like me to go through this? Will you just ask questions, or?
If you have anything you feel is really important for us to know, go for it. Otherwise, we can just jump into questions.
I don't think anything in particular. Pretty straightforward.
Well, I'm going to lead off with just a quick question, which is that, so we have a ADU bylaw now in the state that allows for construction by right. That obviously comes with limitations for size. So is that the reason why you're deciding to do a family suite instead of an ADU?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have no intention or desire to want to rent this in the future or anything like that. It's strictly for family.
Gotcha.
That was my question, so.
Sorry, I'll try to be quiet next time.
I did offer to them, and they didn't want anything to do with an ADU. They just wanted it for a family member.
Okay.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
Paul,
Yes.
thank you for your patience. I had a lot of questions for Paul, and he went through all of them.
Very good questions.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Do we still have family suites after town?
They will be in effect until 2028. And then they're gonna be eliminated, and they're all gonna be ADUs after that.
I had to get home to my kids, so I didn't stick around.
So,
until
okay.
I'm sorry, good.
Will a family suite become an ADU?
Nope.
It'll always be a family suite.
It's supposed to be a family suite. They could reapply as an ADU
If they want to have someone else
if they
reside.
wanted to change it. But there would be no new permits for family suites after 2020.
But the reason why this is a family suite and not an ADU is because it is larger than it would be allowed to be with an ADU. But it comes with a restriction that it has.
900 square feet max,
Right.
or 50% of,
And this is connected? Oh, okay.
no, a family suite can be included, I'm not sure if I.
Can be
It's all right,
connected or
Mike, to answer?
not. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Can be attached or non-attached. There's two different types of ADUs.
I thought ADUs were non-attached by.
No, it could be inside the unit, they don't have to even add on, it could be inside that's already constructed.
Or it could be an addition.
I don't
In
even,
addition, or,
it's been a while since town meeting, but I don't even think there was a requirement for a separate entrance, right? Or was there?
an ADU has to have a separate
Does have
entrance.
to,
It's just the opposite, so.
Yeah.
And,
I thought it was
but just so,
separate.
so the normal, so the law for family suites is that it is not automatically transferred to a new owner. Right, so like
Right.
if they sell this unit if they sell this house to someone else, normally that family, if they wanted to use it as a family suite, would have to come back to us for another special permit.
Exactly, it loses it at the time of
So-
sale.
Right, so then after 2028, when this is no longer allowed, does that mean that then they would have to come, if they came back, they couldn't go for a family suite, they would have to apply for a variance
No.
to allow for an ADU?
ADU is by
because-
right,
Right,
it's
but
over 900
but
square
it's over
feet.
900 square
Compliance.
feet.
but it's still, it's not an ADU yet, you know? what I
Right,
mean?
no, I understand, but I'm just asking if they sold the.
I don't think we even got that far on it, because
Yeah.
they're gonna switch over, and if it was grandfathered in, it's probably gonna be in the grandfather clause.
Right, but it wouldn't be grandfathered in because it was never an ADU.
Right.
Right, and so it's a weird loophole. So I'm just warning you that something for you folks to think about in this is that there's a weird unknown territory that we don't understand yet of if you, after 2028, if you sell this house, that
It doesn't
buyer
matter.
is not gonna know what they can do with it.
Well, it's
Okay.
technically
Right.
their due diligence to.
Absolutely, but it just might affect the value of how you would sell it, right?
Okay.
Whereas an ADU, if it fit within the requirements of an ADU, then it would be by right, and the person inheriting it would know exactly what the person purchasing it would know exactly what they're getting.
But the person purchasing it, I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah.
If the person purchasing it wanted to continue to use it as a family
They
suite.
could not.
They could
So-
not. So it
so-
would just be a single family with
Right.
some additional space.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So they'd be purchasing it as a single-family
Yep.
home. And in the past, our consideration around family suites would be that they could come back here and request a special permit. But as Mr. Hutchins just described, after 2028, that goes away.
Okay.
And to his point, I don't think we've figured out exactly what that means for a unit like this that is too large to be an ADU.
Yep.
Well, one thing I will say is that what was mentioned in terms of switching of ownership, that includes family. So it does not matter in terms of if a new deed is drafted, whether it's family or not, that completely wipes out any family suite.
Okay.
So be mindful of the fact that if a family suite is something that you would want to carry on for generations, ownership at the time, meaning now, has a big impact.
So if you're
Or
buying the
anytime
house from your father,
Yes.
that would be a change of
Well,
ownership.
It would just have to be done before 2028.
28.
Right.
Yeah, but you'd still have to come back because it'd be a
They
change
would,
of
right,
ownership.
they would have to come back, but they can come back
Yeah.
until
Until
2028. After 2028, it becomes a lot murkier. So none of this is going to be an objection on our part. It is more just making sure that you guys are informed, because we all the time get folks that come to here because they had expected things to go one way and then find out that the zoning laws were not what they thought, and that then they were wondering why they had to be here again. And so I just wanted to throw out there that it may get complicated after 2028 for you.
But prior to 2028, even if we change ownership from my father to my husband and I,
Yep.
can you please clarify what needs to be
So
done
you
there?
would need to come back here and do the same thing over again. So you would come back and say, hey, we're applying for a special permit once again
Okay.
to allow for a family suite. And it would be the same process that we have now. We would be allowed to say no, but it would be the same process for the same building for the same property.
Michael, it's a little bit more complicated than that,
Okay?
based in the sense that technically the applicant, this property is in a trust. This property is not owned by an individual. So the property is not owned by Richard Blaine. The property is owned by the Blaine Family Holding Trust, which my assumption is, which it states the trustees are Richard and Kathleen. So that changes it a little bit in terms of ownership. And obviously, we can't give legal advice. So I would consult a lawyer on that aspect of it. But the applicant isn't technically Richard Blaine. It is.
But when you change the trustees of a trust, you don't change the deed, right?
No, I can't, that's legal advice. That's now going into a legal aspect of it. So
So we'll talk about it later.
So what I say to you, since the board can't give legal advice, is look into whatever ramifications where your property is owned by a trust.
Okay.
But you still have time, because like the chair says, family suites are sticking around until 2028.
Sure.
Yeah, and you, nothing about what, if we accept this now, it won't preclude you from coming back in a year if
Right.
if ownership changes and you need to come back.
Okay.
But
do have the final iteration nailed down before 2028, maybe
Yeah.
well before. So you
It
can
will
figure
be
it
well
out.
before that.
Okay.
So, anyways, like I said, none of this affects necessarily our decision. It is more just, it's complicated for all of us, as you can tell. We're trying to figure it out, and so
Well, it's
I want to
changing.
make sure,
Everything's
and we're the ones who are looking at this, constantly. And so I just want to make sure that you guys understand that it is a little bit murky.
Okay, thank you.
As a point of clarification in terms of occupancy, this is probably for you. If you had an existing family suite, you could still use it as living space, even though it wouldn't be an ADU or a family suite, right?
It's still just
Like
another
if they
room.
sold it to someone else, they could still use that as living space.
For,
If you did it to what?
If you,
Yes,
s-
if they
if you sold the whole building
Oh,
Right.
to somebody else, they don't have to close it off and never go inside.
Right. If they had 4 kids, they could have a
It's not
couple
like a
kids use
separate-
that side.
My point of clarification maybe sounds a little less crazy than that, but like it's not like a separate occupancy permit for that section of the house is what I was clarifying. So yeah. So like I mean,
She just said she has kids, let's be real, okay?
Right.
I mean, we know who's living in this in 30 years.
Is there an entrance, separate entrance, or can you you gonna be able to get into his apartment without going outside?
Yes, there's a shared mudroom.
That's what I thought.
Yes,
but there is also
an exterior entrance.
entrance.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Is the laundry in the mudroom? I didn't actually look at this.
No, there's laundry in the upstairs of the existing house, and there will be in the primary bathroom of the addition.
Oh, there's gonna be new laundry.
Too many
I hate
people
sharing
for one
laundry,
shared
so yeah,
laundry.
I can't do it.
Especially when you got kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't think I have any other questions.
Okay. Is there any public comment? Any folks from the audience that would like to come speak?
I have a question, but.
Please come to the
He's our
podium.
contractor.
Yes.
Contractor.
Yeah.
So
Please identify yourself.
My name is Penalta da Silva. I'm the contractor. I just want to have a question. In 2028, if they decide to go to ADU, if they cut some of the square footage of the addition and put on existing house, they still can do the ADU in 2028?
If they
It's still up for, I wish we'd give a straight answer on that.
No, I'm just trying to
getting
give
figured
them
out
more
right now.
more answers.
Well, I can't, because we don't have it, it's not, this was just voted on in May. It has nothing to do with me, unfortunately. It was voted on it was done by the planning department, so this was a surprise to me too. They haven't clearly seen what we're gonna do on that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because the ADU is only 900 square feet, and right now they have 145. They can make some of the square footage for part of for the old house, but we'll see this if you have to.
That would be the
do
way
this
out,
transition.
just make more common space, make the
Yeah.
mudroom bigger or something like
Yeah,
that.
I was very curious
right.
about that.
Right. So there might be a way to make that happen. We can't make promises on that.
Yeah,
but,
just another.
Right. That would be because that is by right. Right. That you can build up to 900 square feet. It would, if that were an arrangement that could be made, it wouldn't even necessarily have to come back.
She's just
to
gonna
us,
have a big mud room between the two.
There you go.
Very possible.
Fine by me.
You put one of the laundries in the mudroom?
In theory, yeah, you could.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just, because I think one of the things that would kind of be very unfortunate is that if down the road, you can't, I mean, 'cause it's so muddy on how a family suite would work. If you're able to make it, the 900, then
Right.
they'd be
It
golden,
clarifies
right?
things a lot.
Sure.
And if
But
if
it's-
somewhere down the line, 30 years from now, your children decide that they're going to rent it rather than give it out to family, it would also still be an option for them.
Right.
Assuming that we don't change our state law.
And assuming that the deed hadn't changed in that
Be
time.
careful, that might give her children the idea to rent it to her.
Is they're gonna go back on YouTube and watch this meeting from like whatever ago?
12 people watch it in the first place.
So I'm the worst for not knowing this off the top of my head, but what is the square footage of the,
The existing house
yeah, 11,
is
or no, the proposed
1145.
1145. So it's like 200 square foot off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically one room.
Right. I mean, that's a significant change.
It's not nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's like a
I'm gonna
quarter
think
of the
that
head.
At some point, if they change family suites to ADU, they're gonna have to grandfather whatever's already existing.
But
They're
how
not
do you,
gonna be able to.
That's
Sure, but they
problem-
wouldn't do that as,
Who knows how
as it
that's gonna
changes ownership necessarily.
Well,
see, the part that really stinks, depending on how things go in terms of keeping it in a trust or putting it into somebody's individual name, is if you want to pass it down, the family, her grandchildren, sorry to do that to you, can't come in for a family suite. Because it would be,
right, but I'm saying that at that point, it's gonna become an ADU and it's
Well,
gonna.
we don't
but
know
it
that.
wouldn't.
We don't know
Because it would
that.
be too big.
But I'm just saying, if you take away family suites, it has to become an ADU.
No, it doesn't.
No,
It doesn't have to.
it just
Not unless we
becomes,
stipulate it.
It becomes a second kitchen.
If we have another revision to the town bylaw that says that that happens, then that could happen, but that is not what the town bylaws say right now.
Yeah, I wonder if you can make like a closet and laundry, like in common space.
Yeah.
Sure there are possibilities.
All right, well, don't want to drag this on too long. We're not the right people to be talking to about this anyway. So we're at the point now, I think, where we can move on to voting if you folks are comfortable with that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have another question?
Well, I guess we could talk about it after.
Okay. Do we have a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. We are now deliberating.
I'm good with it.
So is there any reason why they should go speak to a lawyer before? Like ask
No.
for an extension and speak to a lawyer and come back next
Here's
month?
here's what I'm gonna say, the application is done. I don't necessarily know, I would say that that's a massive, whether the application is done as trustee or the application is done as the individual, I don't really think that matters because this attaches to the property, not to the name. It's just kind of a formality type thing.
But are you wondering if they should talk to a lawyer in case they want to change the design in some way?
No.
But put it this way, in terms of if it's in a trust, which could very well be perfectly fine, it depends what their trust says, but that's a legal issue.
But I don't think anything that we decide here precludes
Yeah.
them from being able to do the other options.
Because it's,
I just would hate to see, that's hypothetical, we all agree that they get it, and then, they want to change ownership, and
here's what I'm gonna say to you. They don't have a lawyer here. This isn't, them
Well,
being here
so
isn't
what
costing them
So
money.
my question to you would be, would it behoove them to ask for an extension for a month, go talk to a lawyer?
No.
Doesn't matter.
No.
Well, then they would have to wait on moving forward on the construction
If-
for.
Let's ask the applicant first. I think this is the most important thing, is to ask them, because time is of the essence of this.
Well, so we actually can't ask the applicant right now because we just closed it. And so,
That's not, but he's asking a question that only they can answer.
I know,
So he might have to
but
reopen.
we can't ask them. We're not gonna reopen it.
But I think,
But-
Paul,
I think this is wrong then, because this is they've got us in trouble before, because we can reopen it. can
we did reopen that last
You know,
meeting.
but just to solve that, Mike, I'm not trying to, but this is a real important factor on this decision.
Okay.
Would they want to postpone this and go, because Jimmy brought it up, so he has to
Yeah,
get.
but I just want to give my input here.
Sure,
which is
100%,
that-
sure,
That I
sure.
don't think, if we approved it, if we denied this, it would close doors. If we approve this, I don't think it closes any doors for them. And so I don't see any reason for them to need to talk to a lawyer before we conclude this.
Well, my impression when Alex said it's in a trust, and if it changes ownership, it
But
becomes an issue.
But that's what, depending on what they build, right? We can approve this and they build nothing. Or we can approve this and they build something that fits into the ADU and ignore everything that we did.
Well, it also depends on when this happens. So like, let's say.
Well, they have what, Paul, 6 months to start construction from an approval?
From approval of a permit, so
Oh.
they get.
So what do they have from the approval of?
They have the appeal period, once we
Yeah.
decide, they have the 20-day appeal, and then they can start that next day.
But how
I
long
see.
do they
So-
have?
So
They
that
got
would be the,
180 days to start their construction,
yeah.
and
So
it
that-
can be extended.
So that would be the one door that does, I guess, close, right? Is it creates the ticking clock for them to start
Well,
construction.
we could give them one extension, so it's basically a year. We can give them
Yeah.
another 6 months if they have a good excuse.
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay, but
just
like my
would-
understanding is like the biggest hangup is that if they decide to either sell the house from the trust to you and your husband, or if somehow changing the trustees of the trust generates a new deed, I don't think it would, then they would have to just come back and get the same special permit again, which I don't see why we would change our minds in the next year, maybe, that it would take you to figure out and nail it down with a lawyer to make sure. And meanwhile, if we continue it to next month, and assuming you can get a meeting with a lawyer in that time, then you just delay the process of starting on the project. I don't see a value to it, I guess, to them.
Just playing it through. if they go and talk to a lawyer after this is done, and the lawyer says, don't do this, build an ADU, nothing in what we've done that stops them from doing that.
Well, they would have to redo the plans to get them smaller, get 900 square feet.
They have to do
My
that.
only
can do
concern
it.
was, I don't want them to spend money for this. We approve it, they get a lawyer, and then they're gonna spend money again after it's becomes hers, or it becomes out of the trust and comes into somebody, and then they gotta spend more money to come back to get reapproved.
So I
Well,
can.
so the ADU does not get approved here.
I'm not
Okay,
saying
so
that.
James, let's put it this way. Okay, let's put it this way. The property right now is owned by a trust, okay? Nobody has any idea what the trust documents say.
Right.
Let's say we approve this, okay? And then let's assume a month from now, 2 weeks from now, they go to a lawyer, okay? No, so let's think about what they've spent money at this point. The only thing they've spent money on is the plans, which they had to do no matter what. They don't have a lawyer. Maybe their architect is charging them something. Maybe, okay? Maybe it's worked into the deal. Then let's say they go talk to a lawyer, and the lawyer says, listen, because of the messiness between family suites and blah, 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 you really should sell the property to her individually, okay? What are we looking at in terms of cost? She doesn't have to redo the plans. She could probably walk in here without her contractor and basically says, hey, board,
She still
here's...
needs to file, she still needs to.
But she'd have to do that regardless.
Right.
But you would have to do that no matter what, unless, I mean...
Okay, all right, I'm fine.
But I don't disagree that opening it up and giving the option, because are you talking about, is your concern the cost of like the certified mailings and the application fee? Is that what you're talking about? Because that's the only, actually, if you want to talk about it, that's the only added cost. And I don't know what that cost is, but yes.
About $800 and something that they have out of pocket right now.
Right, so.
Okay, so I guess that right there isn't necessarily pennies. But for all you know,
In the
they're...
grand scheme of things, it's probably not a lot to consider on the whole project, but I'm just trying to make it less sloppy for them. If they got a 1-month extension, they were able to talk to a lawyer and get some advice on how they should proceed with the trust and the ADU versus the family suite. And now, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying
Well, I
that-
don't think there's harm in opening the meeting up. We did it
So
before.
we can reopen again.
I'm just.
So let's make a motion.
Move to reopen public comment.
I'll second. Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Welcome back. Did you miss
It's like
us?
a game show.
All right. So to fill you, to make clear what was being said is, Mr. Testa wants to know, do you want to continue so that you can talk to a lawyer, figure out where you want to go first, or do you want to simply proceed with this deliberation? I'm sorry to put that decision on you.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Is that if we continue with this and we stick to the plans, when we then, ownership is changed to my husband and I, and we resubmit for a special permit, are we able to say, these are the same plans, that everything is existing, nothing
Yes,
has
you
changed, it's
could-
just that it's been completed?
Exactly. You can basically staple the old plans to the new one, and the cost would be the notification of all your abutters, which is a certified mailing, as you
Right.
know, and it costs money. So that's a pain, and I'm sorry for that. And you'd have to come back here, and I'm sorry for that. But
I've got the system down now, and Terry and I are working really well together, so.
And I certainly can't make promises as to how we will rule in such a case. But given that it's not substantially changed, my personal vote would probably be along the same lines, unless there's some drastic change to circumstance that I
Sure.
can't foresee. But again, I can't make promises. So yeah, that's the best answer I can give you.
So we would want to proceed.
Yes.
We would rather proceed and not have an extension.
All right.
But thank you for laying out all of the options. We appreciate it.
Sorry.
Thank you, Joe.
No, I
Can I
know that the
make-
ADU things it's all
I know
late
it's all
breaking
confusing.
and
It's all new to everybody,
Right.
right? I
Appreciate
make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, back to deliberation.
All right.
Cone of silence. All right. Any additional thoughts?
No, I'm good.
Oh, I'm keeping my mouth shut. I opened it enough.
All right. Do we have an official motion?
I'm so excited to hear Frank.
Okay.
It's been a little while.
I move to approve a special permit pursuant to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-4.2, Part Q, Table 2, dimensional requirements for a family suite in the R1 zoning district for the purpose of constructing a separate dwelling unit located with a single-family dwelling subordinate in size to the principal unit and separated from it in a manner which maintains the appearance of the building as a single-family dwelling.
We need to mention the owner and the address too. You skipped
Okay.
the lines of the address.
The first paragraph.
Wow, you were out once and this is what it is?
I was
We-
just
we-
corrected
to
on
mention
this.
Richard Blaine and
We-
123 Brentford
Okay,
Circle.
we never have,
Never have?
no.
Oh, I was just corrected about that.
As far as I knew, we always did.
Okay, well, I'll finish this and read it in. Which maintains the appearance of a building of a single-family dwelling. Specifically, applicant has requested a special permit to construct a family suite attached to an existing home to be inhabited by a family member consisting of 1,145 square feet family suite. This is a proposal, a petition from Richard Blaine for property at 123 Brentwood Circle, map 64, parcel 36, North Andover, Massachusetts, 01845 in the R1 zoning district. We're going to incorporate into the decision the plans that were submitted, including a proposed plot plan by Control Point Associates consisting of one sheet and dated 4 April 10th, 2025, and 19 sheets of plans by Solve Plus dated April 8th, 2025.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Mr. Testa.
Aye.
Ms. Greg Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Frank Kilroy.
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Very much.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Hopefully we don't see you.
Yeah, I think we don't read it because it's relative to the hearing that's been opened.
Sure.
So his decision is related to the hearing that's already been opened under that
Okay.
family.
Oh, I did so much more reading than I needed to. Oh my
A whole nother
God.
sentence. I stand corrected.
In this and every.
Well, it's always possible that I'm wrong, but it's just, I haven't, and previous to me, we didn't. Because I was studying Alan's work.
Okay.
But,
Getting a gavel if you're a judge would be a
All
good
that
thing
shuffling.
but that could be,
I think it's just adjournment.
I have gavels
All right.
from being chair of but they're like,
Speaking of, really? You're just talking about gavels?
All
go
right.
overboard, all right? Yeah, you got that
Vice
idea.
chair's grabbing it from me. Apparently, I'm not authoritative enough.
She's a little power hungry over there.
All right. I have to worry about being
I
usurped
just find
here.
it ironic that you were talking about gavels and then ignored the gavel.
All
Just
right.
saying.
Do we have a motion to adjourn so we can continue this conversation?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.